welcome back to another episode of the TundraCast, ladies and gentlemen. And it was a pretty eventful month, a pretty eventful day as free agency took place today. A lot of bad signings, not a lot of good signings as you expect. But, we just have a lot of content to talk about. And since, I'm a fan of the Oilers, we got two Leafs fans, we're just going to talk about what our teams mostly did today. So I think we can probably start off with Zach Hyman. 7 years with the Oilers at 5.5. I'll let the two Toronto fans talk, then I'll give my own opinions.
All right, well, I'm just going to start off and say I love Zach Hyman. I don't think Siakam agrees with me. We love
Oh
Zach
yeah,
Hyman.
100%.
We love Zach Hyman. There is no way not to. This guy's just all around. He's a really good person. He works hard all the time. And in his letter, it almost brought me to tears because this guy, he is a true Maple Leaf in just pretty much every single way you could imagine.
Yeah.
It's really sad to see him go. But at the same time, I'm kind of happy that we didn't sign him because 7 years of 5.5 million. I would give him 5.5 million any day, but 7 years, that's a bit much. Obviously, it was probably non-negotiable for him because he wants that contract. He wants that security. That's the word.
Yeah.
Uh, so he was willing to take less money as long as he got 7 years, and I think that worked for the Oilers. I think Shea will get to that probably. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But Zach Hyman, he's a really hard worker. He's gonna give you 100% every single time. Um, and sometimes he's gonna get himself hurt because he's been doing that lately, and that's just the way he plays. But if you're looking for someone that's never gonna give up, this is the guy.
I think my thoughts on Zach Hyman are pretty clear. We had a video that we posted this morning, the open letter to Zach Hyman, and it touches basically on what Coral talked about. Like, Zach Hyman's the type of player any playoff team, any team that wants to win. If you're a team that wants to win, you bring a guy like Zach Hyman to your locker room because he brings the right attitude, the right work ethic, and the right mentality when he steps out there on the ice. And we're going to miss him here in Toronto. I don't know how Kyle Dubas is going to replace his production, but I think more so than that, finding someone to bring what Zach Hyman brought every single game, every single day, as just someone who would come in and work harder than everyone else. And if you were on his team and you didn't work as hard as he was, you didn't think that you were doing enough. And I think Zach Hyman was kind of that leader by example. And we saw at times this year, he was probably the forward that Sheldon Keefe trusted the most. There was Marner, there was Matthews, Tavares, Nylander. The player that Sheldon Keefe, I think, trusted the most was Zach Hyman. We saw him playing on the first line. We saw him move to the third line. We saw him used in so many different roles because that's the kind of player he is. You can plug him anywhere from lines 1 to 3, and he will find a way to produce, and he will find a way to make your team better. And we're gonna miss him. We Leafs fans had been dreaming for years for a player like Zach Hyman that brought the energy and the skill set that Zach Hyman did. So watching him leave was tough, but good on him to get his bag. He was underpaid here. His prime didn't really start until 2016 with us. We traded for him in 2015. So, and then he signed that team friendly contract. So, set himself and his family up for generations. Secure that bag, and we wish him all the best in Edmonton.
Yeah, damn right we do. Just he's a special player, and it's sad to see him go.
Yeah.
That's why I keep hearing from my my other Maple Leaf fans. People love this guy, and every time I watch the Leafs, just based off the past 5 years, 6 years, Zach Hyman's always the guy that stood out to me. He's always noticeable on the ice. He's also a great. He's also a great defensive player. There's not a lot of things he can't do right, and that's what you want to have in your team. I think you guys touched on it, but 7 years might be a bit too long. But when you're trying to add a guy like Zach Hyman, a great top 6 player for maybe the next four years or so, that's the price tag it's going to come with, and it's gonna work. I think it's gonna work out well with a guy like McDavid. I'm pretty sure he played with Matthews for most of his career in Toronto, and he was great with him. They've had a lot of chemistry. I mean, he's always been the net front guy in the power play. It's gonna change a bit of the dynamic of the squad, and I can't wait to see him play because I love Hyman. He was one of my favorite players to watch on Toronto, and there's always about those debates about who's better, Hyman or Wilson. But I'm happy. I'm glad that he's on my team. And I hope he succeeds here. And just based off what everyone's saying, he's a workhorse, and those are the guys you appreciate for sure.
I mean, at the end of the day, even though 7 years is lengthy, if you look at the timeline that the Oilers are on, the next 4 to 5 years really are your go for it years, right?
Yeah.
McDavid and Draisaitl are only going to be, especially Draisaitl, he's only going to be on that $8.5 million contract for so long. And you're only going to have your young guys like Kyle Yamamoto, Evan Bouchard, on their cheap ELCs, right? You're only going to have like the next 2 to 3 years to really build a team around McDavid and go for it. And if it doesn't work, well, you did everything you could. You put the talent around McDavid and Draisaitl. It just didn't work out. But by then, if the team doesn't win, the odds are McDavid and Draisaitl are tired of losing anyways, and they're going to move on, right? If it does work out, well, then you've got a cup. And so I think, especially with the Nuge and even the Barrie and Ceci signings, it's pretty clear to me that Holland is saying these next 4 years, we're just going for it. We're not going to worry about what Ethan Bear is going to be 4 years from now. If Ethan Bear becomes a 60-point producing offensive defenseman who's who logs 25-30 minutes a game 4 years from now, that's fine, right? We need someone right now who can help us win. Although personally, I feel like I'd rather have Ethan. We'll talk on this later, but that was his thought process, and I can respect that. You only have so much time with these two elite top 5 players on your team, especially with Draisaitl's contract. So,
yeah, I agree.
And it kind of seems like the players understand that too, because Darnell Nurse also, I think I saw in a report that he was willing, if he was going to take an extension, it was going to be in that 4-year window. They understand.
One thing I heard though is that I'm pretty sure it was Stoffer, who's the Oilers radio guy. He said something along the lines of that. The CBA. I think the CBA is ending in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Apparently, some of the I wouldn't say concern, but some of the thought going into Nurse's contracts that he'll take another pay cut, or I should put pay cut in quotes, but he'll take a bit lower salary to get paid in 4 to 5 years when the cap goes up, which I guess I can see the argument for that, but I don't know. Like it's just awkward timing because that's when Leon's and Connors are up, and basically if the Oilers don't make at least the third round in the next 4 years, they're gone. If you make the conference finals and even achieve a cup win, then they're gonna stay. That's just a matter of it. So, and once again, I agree. I think that's what Holland's timeline is. We'll get into the trade in a little bit, but you can just tell that that this is what Holland's going for. But just some of the moves he's making is just kind of questionable.
Iffy.
One is iffy, one isn't so far, but we'll get to that a bit later. But just back on Hyman, I love the deal. Once again, I don't expect him to be great in the last 2 years. I think he'll be put up respectable numbers in the first 4, maybe 5 years. So that'll help us out. And actually, one thing I wanted to add on is that his buyout actually isn't too bad. If the Oilers want to buy out, say, the last 2 years, it'll only cost them $1.8 million.
That's
actually not bad at all.
It's actually a cheap buyout option. He does have no movement clause for the first 5 years, but if he's good for the first 5 years, it doesn't really affect them whatsoever. Oh no, I think I rate the signing at maybe a B+, B-, around that for the Oilers. I love Hyman as a top 6 player. They needed that top 6 player all last season, and they finally get it. It improves their team immensely, and I can't wait to see him play.
You'll love him. You'll love watching him play.
Yeah,
that's a promise.
And he fits in well with top players. We've seen it, and when you have players like McDavid and Draisaitl, it's just gonna work out. There's no way.
If Hyman plays on the first line, he's putting up at least 70 points next season.
Whoa!
At least 70. At least 70.
All right.
That's bold.
You see him on the power play one with Draisaitl and McDavid as the net front guy. Replace James Neal or Chase on with him, and then put him on there 5-on-5. This man's getting 70 points, bro.
50% power play.
That's what I'm saying.
Actually, yeah, that's another thing. Like, I mean, the Oilers' power play was already good enough with 2 bums at the front of the net. Now you're adding a guy like Zach Hyman. Like, I'm just saying.
The crazy thing was Zach Hyman didn't even play on the first unit power play for the Leafs.
I mean, there was no space.
They played him on the second unit because Malhotra and Keith kept on trying to big brain the power play. I was like, just put the 4 big guys on the whatever. I'm not gonna get into the Leafs power play.
yeah. Next signing, we got Bear and Mrazek to Toronto. Now, I have no thoughts on this because I'm not a Leafs fan, so I want to know what Siakam and Coral think.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I love it. I think it was pretty obvious that there was even with the injury, there was going to be a market for Freddie Anderson. He was in that weird position where he was between the cream of the crop of goaltending free agency, which is basically Philip Grubauer, but he was above like the guys like Marazzi and Ranta and all those tandem guys, right? He was that weird like. Yes, he's a workhorse starter. Career-wise, he's been a workhorse starter. But the last 2 seasons, he's had 2 really serious injuries, and he didn't perform super well after coming back from his most recent one, right? And he lost his job in Toronto. So it's like, how much of a market does he have? And when I found out he wanted $5 million still, I just knew that he wasn't coming back to Toronto. And my immediate turn was, I want Mrazek or I want Drieger. I want either of those 2 guys. Whichever one I can get my hands on. If it's less than $4 million, I'll take them. And I guess I ask and I shall receive. We got Mrazek, 3 years, 3.8. I think that's a steal of a contract. Well, maybe not a steal, but I think that's a very fair market value. And I think in a year where you can see a lot of players getting overpaid in free agency, the Leafs did a good job not overpaying. He didn't play a ton last year because he got hurt, but when he did play, he was elite. Like, he was one of the best goaltenders in the league when he did play, even if it was only like a 12-game stretch. And even before that, the 2 years before that, he has a really strong and solid track record. So, I see it as we have 2 1As on our team right now in Mrazek and Campbell. And if whichever one falters, the other one's ready to take over. And I like it. It wasn't too expensive.
Yeah, I think that's the important part. It wasn't too expensive. I saw Allmark getting signed for $5 million, which I think was a bit much. But I talked about that in another video, so you can look at that if you want. But and with Freddie getting signed at 4.5, which first of all I loved Freddie. You guys know I was one of the biggest guys who just defended him because I know what he's capable of, and I thought that because of his injury, he obviously dropped off. Because I mean, injuries do that. They suck.
Right, for sure.
But then, but when and I also wasn't surprised when he was still asking for $5 million because I thought he deserved it. But the Leafs obviously couldn't afford that, and they needed someone to be around Campbell's level, maybe a bit higher, maybe a bit lower, but around that level, to be able to back him up, or not even back him up, be his partner. So Mrazek just fits that perfectly, and like Siakam said, anything under $4 million is going to work, and 3.8, that's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, nothing else to add about that. I think that was the straightforward move. I heard some people saying, "Oh, like Darcy Kemper."
No,
Arizona, like Colorado's trying to trade for Kemper right now. You know what Arizona's asking for? They're asking for Newhook. You know what Newhook's like comparable in Toronto would be? Nick Robertson. If we try, like, that's probably what they asked for. They want Nick Robertson, a first-round pick, and, like, they want Connor Timmins in the deal, too. So what's our Connor Timmins? Like, it's not Sandin, because, like, Sandin's better than Timmins, I think, in terms of upside. But, like, what, like a Liljegren? A Justin Hall?
Something like that.
Like, I don't think that was worth giving up the price. I think Mrazek is close enough to Kemper.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of Kemper, I think Darren Dreger or somebody said that there's another team with a better offer than Colorado. Then I think it was Craig Morgan who actually writes for the Coyotes saying the Oilers have interest. So, actually, me and Cordell talked about this earlier on the stream that it's possible that because here's the thing, they're interested in Koskinen, and Koskinen it has the same cap hit as Darcy,
yeah.
but in actual dollars owed, I think Mikko's at like 3.5 and Darcy's at 5 mil.
Mhm.
Oh,
So,
you paid some in bonuses, right?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So I'm just saying,
It does make sense.
It does make sense, and
I
I
would
mean,
have been a lot more sold on it if y'all didn't just trade Ethan Bear.
exactly. I mean, we'll get. I guess. Yeah, we'll just talk about that right now since. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So the Oilers traded Ethan Bear to the Carolina Hurricanes in exchange for Warren Foegele. Now, it's not that Warren Fogel's bad, because Warren Foegele, I'm actually a pretty big fan of. It's just the fact that you trade a good young defenseman, Ethan Bear, and that's what the Oilers kind of needed. You need a young cost control right hand defenseman because those are very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know what you could have done, huh? You could have had Barrie. No, not Barrie. No. You could have had Bouchard. You could have had Bear. Mix up my Bears there. You could have had Bear, Bouchard, and fine. You could have signed. You've had Ceci, who we'll touch on in a sec. And you know what? I'm fine with that right hand defense.
Oh,
Oh,
you just
well,
cut out.
I did.
Did he?
What did I?
It was okay for me.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Well, it's just me.
Okay.
My bad then.
All right. But like I said, like you have your OFD and Bouchard, you have your two-way and Bear, and you have your DFD and Ceci. There's no reason to bring back Tyson Berry, but you guys did. I mean, like, yeah, why replace Adam? Yeah, when you can replace Adam Larson, one of the best defensemen in the league this past season, with one of the worst defensemen in the league this past season, you gotta do it. You know what? Like, I'm gonna cheer for Bear though. Like, I'm happy that he's gonna go to an organization that's gonna treat him well. Maybe not Tony D'Angelo there, but I hope he succeeds. Like, people are gonna complain that this is Jeff Petrie 2.0. While I am afraid that could happen, I think Bear in his prime will become a 20 to 25 point shutdown defensive defenseman, and that's a good young guy. Now maybe Carolina becomes cheap again and they don't want to pay him, but we'll see when that comes. And Warren Foegele, I mean, he improves the Oilers' third line. Like need a third line. And I love Warren Foegele. I think he's a good forward. I just want to give up Ethan Bear for him. I think if Carolina called me up and said, "Hey, we'll take Benson and maybe your 4th round pick," I'd do that trade. I would. And
I know you're high on Benson.
I'm high on Benson, but it's just that I would do that. And it's like I see a lot of Oiler fans like really pissed off because he was a fan favorite here, and we're gonna miss him dearly. I mean, he had 2 concussions this past season, and even then he was still pretty good. I think what he showed in the playoffs wasn't really his fault, considering Dave Tippett didn't bench him for 3 straight periods. Then the 150 he had in triple OT wasn't even his fault because there was a bad line change. So I hope the God Bear succeeds. I honestly love the kid. He's amazing. And I hope Foegele succeeds here too because I love him, but it hurts the Oilers defense, especially since out of everybody left, he was probably the best defensive player there, and now you trade him.
Yeah, we joked about this, but now it got even worse because we didn't expect. Okay, you know what? Never mind. But we joked about this. The Duncan Keith, Tyson Berry, Connor McDavid, and Leon Draisaitl penalty killing line. Just imagine that penalty killing line.
Oh God,
bro, it's beautiful.
I think the Bear trade in itself wouldn't have been a complete loss if, for example, instead of going after bringing Tyson Berry back for 3 or 4 years, you gave that same money to like a Savard. You know what I mean?
Like, honestly, like, yeah, if we sign a Savard, then I would still hurt. I would still be pissed about losing Bear, but at least you got someone back to play, defense, because that's what you need on the back end. But we'll see what happens. I mean, it is also day one, so maybe Holland has something up his sleeve, but I mean, I don't know. I don't trust this guy with another move. I don't trust this guy with another move.
I mean, he might have more moves up his sleeve, but I don't think he has any more moves in regards to the right side of your defense.
Oh yeah,
I think that's set. And I think like we had this whole plan of like talking about like the Ceci signing and the Barrie signing and then the Bear trade, but I think all three are so interconnected to each other that there was no really real point in separating it. Like my main concern is you paid Barrie for 3 years and then Ceci for 4, right?
Yeah.
And like I think Ceci at like 3.25 is not bad, but he was abysmal in Toronto. Like Q can attest to this. Like he played well for Pittsburgh, but he was absolutely terrible for us. It was a nightmare to watch him in the blue and white. And so if you're gonna give him $3 million because of his season in Pittsburgh, I can understand that, but you really shouldn't go more than 2 years if you're giving him that kind of AAV. Because what happens if this coming season he doesn't fit in your system? You force him like Toronto did into a role he didn't excel in, and now all of a sudden you have Toronto Maple Leafs, Ottawa Senators, Cody Ceci making $3+ million for the next 3 seasons, right?
Right.
And like the big concern that I have with what Holland has done is I don't see anybody on that blue line that actually plays defense.
Barring kind of Nurse,
kind of Nurse, right?
Well, I think Bouchard can maybe improve his defensive game.
Bouchard's definitely young. He can definitely get
better. But if you're relying, I'm talking about for this upcoming season.
I know you don't want to rely on a young actor like him. Yeah.
It's just like you have Nurse, who's probably your best defensive defenseman at this point, but also had his highest production offensively last season. And as a team, you want him to continue to progress in that direction as well, right? You want him to keep up the offensive production and also be good defensively. But then you surround him with Tyson Berry, who is quite possibly the worst defenseman at defending in hockey, a right-handed rookie who's played 12 NHL games in his entire career up to this point. And I'm certain that he can get better, and I'm a huge fan of Bouchard, but you don't want him to play on your penalty kill year one, right? And then you have Cody Ceci, who the reason Cody Ceci did so well last year for Pittsburgh is because Pittsburgh realized that if you try to take Cody Ceci and make him a stay-at-home defensive defenseman, like the Leafs tried to make him with Morgan Rielly on the year he spent with the Leafs, he is not going to be good. He doesn't have the defensive awareness and positioning to play that role. You need him to be, moving in transition, moving the puck. You need to get him moving because Ceci actually skates decently well, and he's not bad at passing, which is why he succeeded in that role. And you put him with other players who are more suited for that defensive defenseman role. And I'm just concerned that with you signing him on your right side, and I look at the rest of that blue line, there's no one to be that, Marcus Patterson or John Marino, like that more stay at home, not go out and score points kind of defenseman. In reality, you've surrounded him with a bunch of guys who do exactly what Cody Ceci do, which is play primarily offensive. You're primarily offensive defenseman. So I'm just worried that we're just going to have a mini San Jose in Edmonton. Not as expensive, but similar in terms of construction.
I wouldn't be surprised about that. And, I just have some theories in mind that, because, in the future, right? Bouchard's probably your number one right-hand D, but who's going to be number two? Because Barry's in his 30s. Ceci's going to be 30 when his deal ends. Like, those aren't the guys you want to be going into, the future of the squad. So, I don't know why, but I have a feeling that at some point, the Oilers have to get another young right-hand defenseman just to play that second pair behind Bouchard. And Bear was supposed to be that guy until, of course, he got traded. So that's one thing I'm curious about. Maybe that's through a draft. Maybe that's through another trade, considering the amount of forward prospects we have now. But that's something I'm wondering, that could happen.
Yeah, for sure.
And go ahead.
You go here. Go ahead.
Well, when it comes to like just overall in the defense, we saw Jay Fresh's model. That's by far the worst, or not by far. There's
Vancouver's worst.
So there's two, but one of the two worst defenses. I don't know. Have we seen a defense that bad since
I've seen some pretty bad defense. This is definitely one of them, but would I call it the worst?
No.
I would say this defense here on Edmonton might be one of the worst at keeping the puck out of their own net.
Yeah.
But they'll at least make up for some of it by putting the puck in the other team's net. You know?
And you know, I always go by this mindset. I mean, the more time the puck is in the other team's zone, I'd say that you are playing pretty well defensively because just, you know, judging off that aspect of the game, the more time the puck is in the other team's zone, you know, that you're a decent hockey defensive club now. We'll see what happens. I mean, you know, one thing I'm also banking on is that Duncan Keith. I mean, he was playing 27 minutes in Chicago. It was absurd. You know, I think what they're really hoping for is that he really just bounces back while playing 17 minutes a night on that second pair, which I'm not certain that's going to happen.
It could.
It could. I think that's what they're banking on. Would I be shocked that he could bounce back? Yeah, but time will tell. I mean, that's the thing, right? You can look at all these moves being made today, a year ago, and so on, and say, wow, that was a bad move. But you know, at some point, it could work out. So, I mean, yeah, it is very early to judge, but first impressions are first impressions. We will just have to wait and see.
Yep, I think you said it right, Shay. We don't know. We can't, like, looking at it right now, it doesn't look too great, but we won't know until it actually happens. So,
yeah.
I mean, we call it the Derek Ryan signing, though. I think that one really, like, it's kind of putting into perspective what kind of team that Ken Holland is trying to form, and it's, you know, I think he fits well in your bottom six. I'm not sure where he'll play exactly. Probably third line with Fogle.
I would assume so. Third line with Fogle, yeah.
And that's like two solid guys to play on your third line. Like, if you ask Edmonton fans last year, like, how would you feel about Derek Ryan and Warren Fogle on your third line? I think all of you would take that without a question.
Yeah.
Like, some of the guys who were playing on that third line, I can't even name half of them anymore. Devin Short, like, you know, and so he's at least made an improvement there, and obviously he added that top end talent in Hyman. So I like your forward depth.
Yeah.
So at least he's addressed that issue. The one thing is, I feel like you could have maximized Bear's value more. That's the one thing that because young premium right hand shot defensemen, like, they don't come around, you know, that often, you know, on the trade market, and like. You see what we call Arizona is asking from Colorado for Kemper, and what is the one thing you need more than a third liner? You need a goalie. Look at how far a hot Cam Talbot took you guys that 1 year, right?
That's the thing. Like, you know, if we were to get Kemper before the Bear trade, like, would I be okay with giving up Koskinen plus Bear? I would, because Bear's gonna get you that an elite goaltender.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's what I expected after last night. I was like, you know what? If they do trade Bear, I'd be okay if they trade him for Kemper. And knowing Arizona, Bear would be bad there anyways because it's Arizona. So, but that's the thing. And I really think that they could have had that opportunity to really trade Bear to strengthen a need, and it would make the trade. It would make signing Tyson Berry hurt a little bit less, but not a lot. But, you know,
it's like we like any win, right? Like, we have a defense that can't play defense, but it's okay because we got a goalie that can bail them out, and we just got to score more goals than the other team and hope our goalie doesn't tear his groin.
Yeah.
You know?
Which, I mean, it worked for the Leafs for a bit of time.
Yeah, I mean, if by work you mean losing Game 7 every year.
Okay, well, I mean, at least, you know, make the playoffs, because right now, unless they get Kemper, I'm not sure, man.
I just want like this is shifting over to the Leafs. Like, I need Dubas to sign either Tatar or Saad. I need it. I need it so badly right now. Because every time I see the Leafs make a move, I get my hopes up, and then I see it's like we signed Bunting, and then we signed like what was his name we signed who's the guy that was on Habs fans
Gabriel.
Curtis Gabriel. Like, we signed Curtis Gabriel. Like I like Curtis Gabriel, right? But Curtis Gabriel is not playing on our first line. You know, like I would love Curtis Gabriel as like a depth guy, like a maybe a fourth liner, someone who can come in with or injury, someone who can compete for a roster spot. But that's not what I'm looking for right now. We just lost Zach Hyman.
Yeah.
Who's playing on our first line?
Mhm.
Are we really signing Bunting to play on our first line? Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, overall.
Yeah, obviously, there'd have to be a trade, and you know what? I was talking to Shay about this before, and what I saw with how much right-handed defensemen are going for, not Bear first because that was just a bad trade, but the right-handed defensemen have a lot of value right now.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm starting to see why Dubas wanted to keep Justin Hall around. Because if he decides to make a trade there, first of all, it's $2 million off the cap.
Yeah.
Second of all, that could be a lot of value right there. So you could get something back from the trade. You could open up cap space, and then you can go and get Brendan Saad or Thomas Tatar in free agency. I want Brendan Saad, but we can talk about that
I
later.
want Saad.
Yeah.
Don't give me Tatar. I said I would take Tatar. I don't want Tatar. We don't need another. We don't need another guy who can't play in the playoffs.
There we go. He said it right. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. So if you can trade Hall, you clear up $2 million. You get some assets back. Probably a decent amount from what we're seeing with right-handed defensemen. And then you can get someone like Brendan Saad to play on your first line with Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. And I think that pretty much fixes everything. Your team's set. You got your 2 goalies. You got your defensemen. You got a young defenseman that could stick around for a long time. You got forwards. You got that is still pretty young, and you got Brendan Saad now to play on your first line. That fixes all your problems. So
I will say, what would have been even more perfect is if we didn't let Jared McCann go.
Okay. All right.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Like, if you look at the team right as currently constructed, let's say we get Saad, right? It's Saad, Matthews, Marner, JT Nylander, and like Kerfoot on your second line left wing. If he's not playing your 3C, right? Like there's that vacancy at second line left wing, and I just feel like I'm so much more sold on McCann playing on my second line with Tavares and Nylander than I am about Kerfoot playing on our second line.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure we're gonna bring in some guy for the third line, and Kerfoot's gonna end up being our second line winger because the way free agency is going, I don't think we're gonna be able to sign someone better than Kerfoot besides Saad. But then Saad's to the first line, right? So I think unless we get him through trade, Kerfoot's our guy at second line left wing.
Which I don't hate. I still don't hate that.
I don't hate it, but I'm just saying I like it a lot better if it was Jared McCann who was on pace for 60 points last year on our second line. I'm just saying he was good on the wing too. He's better on the wing than he was at center, which is the same as Kerfoot. They're literally clones. But yeah, like if Dubas trades Hall for like a ton of value, like I won't be upset that we lost McCann because I think the assets that we could get back for Hall might include a player similar to McCann plus like a pick or two.
Oh, we do.
Vijay Vanacek is going back to Washington for a second-round pick.
A second rounder.
That's a bit of a steep price.
I'd say so too.
I mean, especially considering Seattle wasn't even going to play the guy.
Yeah. You could have got him for a lot less. You had the leverage there. He's just going to sit in the AHL or in the press box, wasting away.
They're just going to waste him. I mean, I guess Washington just wanted to make sure no other team got him because, like, I know, for example, like Edmonton could want him. Nashville needs a backup.
Right.
Maybe they come in when.
Well, I guess Nashville got Riddick.
Oh, yeah,
I don't like Riddick. No.
Yeah,
is Riddick really your backup though?
I guess they also have Ingram.
He'll play.
That's true.
Riddick's about to play like 5 games, and that's it.
Yeah, they're just gonna replace him with Ingram as their backup anyway. All right.
I think that's pretty much it, right?
That is pretty much it.
Actually, I just want to say one thing about Ceci before we go because I don't think I mentioned it. I mean, I think we have, right? I think we've all said that at the money he's making, it isn't bad. Yeah, the term's just a prop. Okay, yeah, never mind.
Okay,
we're good.
Yeah. All right, sounds good.
All right, well, thank you everyone for listening. This went a bit longer than we meant it to, but you know what? We like talking hockey, so we're gonna keep on doing it. So thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you next time.